Welcome to NAR's Level Up, the real story from Realtors. Advancing homeownership.
I'm Jessica Lautz. I'm the Deputy Chief Economist and VP of Research at the National Association of Realtors. And here today to talk with me about homeownership and the evolving landscape of real estate are Danielle Blake, Chief of Commercial at the Miami REALTORS, and Randy Day, past President of the Utah Association of REALTORS and President of Presidio Moab. Right now, there is no question that we have incredibly high demand from young adults and from seniors who are looking for a retirement property, at the same time that we have approximately no inventory. Give or take, the real numbers are about 1 million units on a monthly basis. But if we look at this pre-pandemic, just a few years ago, we had about 2 million units in the marketplace. So right now, inventory is absolutely not meeting demand. And I want to talk about not only the barriers, but some solutions today of what we can do about this problem. So Randy, I want to go to you first. And I'd like to talk about what are the barriers that you're facing that are really unique in your state, and what do you see when you're looking at that?
Well, what we see is a limited amount of property. The state of Utah overall is about close to 70% public land.
Wow.
70%. In the county that I live in, we're about 97% public land. Ergo, we have a very difficult time creating private property. And we started out on 1 acre lots or a little bit bigger because of the situation with water wells, the situation with septic tanks and those kind of things. And now that we've evolved, built sewer systems and all those things are there, it's a very difficult time to get the zoning changed in the density necessary to meet the demand that's there. Because folks don't want to do that. A certain amount, some do, some don't, but those that are very vocal always show up in the negative. And so it makes it very difficult for us to do that.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing.
I can only imagine, because not only in your state do you have your current population, but you have a massive migration flow into your state from other areas of people seeking affordable places to live.
Those numbers, and now Utah was voted #1 place to move to in the country, and it's coming. And we've known it's coming. We built the highways. The governor's office has been awesome about that. They've got transportation has been looked at and built, and the freeways are there for this growth, but the housing is not. For instance, we've had malls that have been closed down, and they've been trying to redevelop those malls into what would be a housing situation, but the NIMBYism comes out and really crushes what these intentions are. And then they say, well, you can do this and that. And of course, it gets ballooned into something that it's not in the public. And you're trying to do something good. Well, it gets forestalled because the local planning and zoning boards or the governance folks do not have the backbone to say, thank you for your comments. We're going to go ahead and do this anyway because it's needed. And Utah's behind the 8 ball like everybody else as far as amount of housing every year. It's really low.
Right. And I feel like we need more YIMBYism in this country and less NIMBYism when we really look at how we're approaching, especially adaptive reuse, thinking about the office spaces that are out there, or perhaps even schools, thinking about these vacant properties, vacant malls, and how we can use them in different ways. And residential units, it seems like it's the top of my list of what we could use these for.
Well, what's interesting is we will take a piece of farmland, and over the years, the farmland has been developed. And then the last guy wants to develop his farmland, and he ends up not able to do so because the NIMBYism has stopped it, and they don't want that. So I've created a theory called the bacon theory. It's kind of like bacon. Everybody loves bacon.
True.
Nobody wants to raise a pig.
Oh.
And that's affordable housing.
Well, certainly, I don't even know where to go with that, Randy, so I'm going to turn it to Danielle.
That's
Danielle,
how it is.
You have really met these unique challenges that Miami has. You're in a very, very densely populated area. It is attractive not only to the local population, to international buyers, to people who want to relocate into your area, perhaps as retirees. How are you dealing with this with zoning and planning and environmental review boards? Tell me the solutions that you all had.
Well, we actually used an NAR grant and came together and started a brainstorming session. So give us your craziest idea. Everything goes up on the board. Container homes were one of them, but we talked about teacher housing on school campuses or housing on top of parking garages. What about, we also see a lot of churches that have land, and so could we look at putting some units on that when we found out there was a tax issue? So now we're meeting with local government to educate them about that.
Wow.
So the first thing that we did with this particular project and using the NRA grant was we did the brainstorming, we went to the county, we asked if they would donate land for our project, and they agreed. So then the struggle started after that.
Yeah, and I know that you use the community outreach grant. Can you tell us about that? And can you educate other realtors who could be out there looking at the issues that they have in their community? How do you use it? How do you approach that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we used the grant to do the brainstorming and then narrowed it down to what we really wanted to focus on. And that was going to be the regulatory barriers for construction for alternative use products. In this case, it was the container home. So we used the Florida Building Code, and we went and met with the elected officials. What was great and what the grant enabled us to do was to have that conversation. Like, talk to us about this crazy idea of taking a shipping container and converting it into housing. What are the steps involved with that? How can you partner with us? We partnered with the city, we partnered with the county donated the land. The city learned that there were a lot of barriers that they had in place that prevented affordable development. One of them was this junior review committee. So it took us 11 months to get through what's called Environmental Review and Preservation Board. It's a board of residents that interject their own personal opinion. Okay. So for example, in landscaping, the code says a minimum of 50 shrubs and 3 trees. They said 143 shrubs and 7 trees. That was $25,000. That's ludicrous, crazy. Should never have been part of the project.
Wow. Yeah, there are a lot of silly laws on the books. I've heard a lot about these laws in different areas of the country, and whether it's density restrictions and you can't be over a certain height limit, or you have to have 2 parking spaces for every unit. And it turns out that they're talking about a small 1-bedroom apartment that you wouldn't necessarily have 2 people in. Correct. So yeah, it is different challenges in each area. When we talk about this and we're thinking about these unique solutions, accessory dwelling units, container homes, tiny homes, I feel like they could fit a need, perhaps.
Oh, absolutely. So we just actually got this passed to our county for accessory dwelling units, and what was perfect about using that container home, it was done. We finished with it, but we were able to say what we're talking about is the exact square footage. Wow. So if you look at that and say, I could see that in my backyard, it helped people visualize, and we were able to provide that when we were advocating.
Yeah. And Randy, in looking at your local government and the challenges that you're facing, are there any solutions that can be taken from this Miami model here to really storm the tower, I guess?
I would love to do that, and I'm going to brainstorm with you later, and we're going to find out what that looks like. But our height restrictions is 3-story. We could certainly go much higher. We've offered fire equipment and all of those kind of things to help mitigate the issue of having too many stories, but they're kind of stuck on that height restriction. They're stuck on several things, but the ADU thing, the legislature in the state of Utah has come out and really assisted on that, where now we can have an ADU by right in the basement. We can have an ADU on property, and they're allowed and permitted by right. So that's really helped a lot. Now, getting past the regulations and the building codes to bring it up to standard, it's a trick to make it affordable. So those things still need to be looked at.
Yeah,
for us.
Absolutely. And I feel like accessory dwelling units, they really fit a need, because we see so many families living in multi-generational homes now with perhaps an aging parent or kids who have boomeranged back who you can't get rid of, and they're all living in one unit. And so finding a way that everyone can live comfortably together, and perhaps even a rental unit, can be quite helpful.
Well, the answer to me is density. We've got to get more density, and certainly in my area and other areas, we've got to have density, and we've got to have single-family homes. That's the American dream, and yeah, we can get those lots to 5,000, 7,000 square feet, but we've got to have a lot of them, and we've got to be able to say, yep, that's what we're going to do, and we've got to lay out the right layouts, and we've got all the smart people. Everybody knows how to do this. Architecture is brilliant, and the designs can be brilliant, and we can go 3 stories with a small footprint and build those homes. So it's there. The technology is there.
And I heard a great story with ADUs, the accessory dwelling unit. It was a gentleman who had Alzheimer's, and he lived in a 3-bedroom, 2 bathhouse, and the relatives weren't on site to be able to take care of him. But what they did was build an ADU in the backyard, move him into it, and then his full-time nurse was able to live with her family in the 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Wow.
So it helped both, and that's been a great story that we've been able to retell to push for that.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Randy and Danielle. This was an incredible, lively, and really educational discussion about how everyone in their local communities can really tackle the density restrictions and try and look for solutions of homeownership. For more information about NAR's grants, go to nar.realtor and search for community outreach grants.
Level Up, the real story from Realtors.
To learn how the Miami Association of REALTORs cut the red tape for housing affordability by permitting the use of non-conforming lots, creating an expedited review process, enabling container homes for accessory dwelling units, and reducing overall housing costs, visit miamirealtors.com/container home. And to learn more about NAR's community outreach grants, visit realtorparty.realtor/community outreach.